Do you find yourself studying for hours only to feel stuck, wondering why you're still not fluent? That used to be me, but today I speak 4 languages. So I want to give you the simple 5-step system that took me from failing and wasting time to getting unstuck and finally making progress. And the best part is that it only takes 10 minutes. Step 1. The language cleanup. Most language learners seem to think that to get fluent, you need to do as much as humanly possible. But I fell into this trap myself. I started learning Spanish with Duolingo, and the second things got a little hard or my progress wasn't 100% what I wanted, I looked for a new app. Because I thought that the solution to any of my language learning problems had to just be some secret method or some new app that I hadn't discovered yet. But all this did in reality was split my attention in 100 different places, never letting me actually focus and get good with anything. And so I realized that most apps and resources basically just do the same shit. And today, all I use are a few basic tools that work well for me and my goals, and I make sure to do them well. So instead of this complex, overwhelming routine, doing 50 different things at once, simplify. Just pick 1 or 2 things for each part of the language that seems solid enough. They don't have to be perfect, okay? Just solid enough. Then stick to them for a while, focus on them, and do your best with them. Because the reality is that you'll probably never find the perfect tool. And it's your consistency and focus that's actually going to set you apart and get you some results. But to know what to pick, we need to know where we're going. And that's what step 2 is for. Here's a simple goal setting system I used to learn basic Italian in just 30 days. And in case you're thinking that goals can't be that important, right? Just know that I thought the exact same thing. And those were the exact times where I made the least progress and I was the least consistent with my language learning. So if you want to get fluent, please just spend a few minutes is all I'm asking, to set a few good goals, and you'll save yourself from hours and hours of otherwise wasted effort. And all you need are 3 kinds of goals. The first one is going to be your North Star goal. Mine was a long-term vision of speaking Italian in Italy, connecting with my family who's from there. The stronger it is, the better. Yours might be moving to a country, speaking it for travel, or getting a job somewhere. The most important thing is that you make it ambitious for you and that you really visualize it, having it be something pretty vivid that you can always look to for inspiration and motivation to keep going. And this will keep you going and also get you started, but it's not quite enough in terms of direction in your everyday life. So the second kind of goal is going to be your medium-term goals. This is what you want to achieve in the coming months to a year or 2. In my case, it was pretty simple because I had a trip booked. So my goal was just getting conversational in time for it, which was 30 days. Now, your first goal can be quite vague, that's fine, because it's mostly an inspirational sort of goal. But this one, you ideally want it to be a little more specific. So set a certain time by which you want to reach it, and also a certain level that you want to reach. That way, you're going to have a pretty clear path forward and that you can also measure your results with and see, like, am I actually on the path to reaching this goal or not? And to not be unsure of what I had to do every single day, I also set some short-term goals. Week 1 for me was to complete an audio course covering the basic grammar and vocabulary of the language. Week 2 was to understand kind of more basic beginner content. And week 3 and 4 and 4.5 was to have a full 1-hour conversation with a native speaker and to also start understanding some native content. And to make all of this come true, I also set a minimum study goal of at least 90 minutes per day. That was low enough to where I could be consistent with it, but also high enough to where I'd get some really good progress, especially trying to get conversationally fluent in just 30 days. So step 2 of the system is just getting crystal clear on what you actually want from the language. Setting goals with a clear time frame, a clear level you want to reach, and that are backed by a strong reason. But to know what we actually need to do to reach those goals, we need step 3. Here's where we spend some time figuring out our constraints. Because if we don't know them, we're going to be wasting a lot of time doing stuff that we don't actually need. A constraint is the main thing holding you back right now. So it's like having a really cool and fast car that has to stop for gas every half mile. Yeah, it might be cool, but it's impractical as hell. And so the constraint there is obviously the gas tank, right? And spending more money on an even better engine or an even better paint job or whatever is fine, but it's kind of silly because you're not fixing your main problem. But very few language learners think that way, and that's why they're stuck. To avoid this trap, we're really going to understand and avoid the so-called any benefit mindset. Basically, thinking that learning anything that could potentially be useful or have a benefit is worth it. Textbooks are totally fine, but if you've been learning for 5 years and you still can't speak, it's probably not because you need your 20th textbook. More than likely, it's because you need to focus more on speaking and listening maybe. And so to get the most out of your time when studying, you have to constantly ask yourself, what is the one thing holding me back from fluency right now? It might be your vocabulary, your grammar, or speaking, or even consistency. Whatever it is, find it, then hammer it until it's no longer your weakness, and then repeat. But to be able to do this without giving up our entire lives, we have to have the time. And that's what step 4 is for. Step 4 is to make a time audit. And if you spend just a few minutes doing this, you'll find that you're actually able to make a lot of progress with very little time spent language learning. Take a look at your calendar and think, what doesn't need 100% of my undivided attention to do? Work, spending time with family, studying, okay, fine. Those are things that actually need attention, I get that. But what about things like your commute, or like when you're working out, maybe you're jogging, maybe you are walking somewhere, cooking, cleaning, maybe there's a little break between your classes. All of these small pockets of time are what I call dead time. And if you, instead of doing nothing during them, try to fill up just a little bit of them with some language learning via a podcast or listening to an audio course, you'll soon find that they amount to quite a big amount of language learning by the end of the week. This is a very simple hack that I always use to get in 5 to 10 extra hours of learning every single week. After finding these small slots of time in your calendar and making the most of them, so that we don't burn out, we're also going to need step 5. And that is to build momentum. The reason so many language learners burn out, basically before they've even gotten a chance to get started, is because they believe they have to spend hours upon hours studying hard to make any kind of progress. You don't. And in fact, I found that it's quite the opposite. Because if you try to do that, let's just guess for a second what's gonna happen. At first, you might have a few days where you're doing fine, but then eventually, inevitably, there's gonna be a day where you don't really feel like it, or you have a little bit of extra stuff to do and you're busier, and so you don't find the time to study. And then you feel down on yourself. And you start associating the habit of language learning, something that was supposed to be fun and add to your life, instead with pain, regret, and guilt. And so you study less and less until you eventually quit. That's not very productive, is it? And so to take our newfound time, goals, and constraints and actually get started in the right way, we don't need to do the absolute most and go crazy. We just need to take it slow and build momentum. That's the key. Because when you do that, you're going to start getting positive feedback instead of negative. And then you're going to start feeling like the man. And when you do that, everything becomes more fun, you're going to do more of it, you're going to get even more positive feedback, and it just becomes this self-reinforcing loop of happiness. And you learn more and you get more fluent, and it's pretty genius, right? Thank you. Now, my favorite way of doing this is to start small and habit stacking. So taking already existing habits, like for example, opening your computer or phone every day, and just combining that by starting off, not replacing anything, but just starting off by doing, let's say, 10 minutes of reviewing some vocabulary. Or if you have the habit of before of going to the gym, well, instead of listening to a podcast through the whole gym session, just start off by listening to it on the way to the gym. Because there's no one who's holding a gun to your head, forcing you to listen to the entire session, every single session for the rest of your life. I mean, I love my music too, I get it. And so instead of burning out, let's just start small and stack these wins over time. No matter how inconsequential these may feel at first, they really do add up over time. And they start building these consistent small wins that boost your confidence and motivation and makes you never really want to quit. And that's ultimately the goal here. We're not trying to do the most, we're trying to make language learning a part of our lives over time. So if you just take 10 minutes out of your day and follow all 5 steps one by one, I promise you'll feel so much clearer on what it is you actually need to do to reach your language learning goals, and you'll be way on your way to fluency. But if you want to learn about one of my favorite methods to learn a language fast that you can start using today, click the video right here. I'll see you there. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep learning.